Hello everyone, my name is Paul Third and today we are looking into Elton John piano sound. Now I know I look a little bit like Elton John back in the day, but unfortunately no, I am not Elton John. I am not Elton John playing Elton John's piano. I'm not Elton John playing Elton John's piano in the recording studio through the Trident console and the Neve Pries or whatever they used, okay? I don't have any of that, but what I do have is this, the Mixing Engineer's Handbook by Bobby Owsinski. Okay, I've had this for over 10 years. If you don't have it, just go out and buy it, especially if you're new to mixing engineering, right? There is a trick in here all about pianos that I've always wanted to try out, and it was talking all about getting an Elton John piano sound. So, I know I'm not Elton John, I know I've not got a piano, okay, the main things that make his sound, but I do have a little compression and EQ trick that may kind of give us a little bit of a flavour of an Elton John piano sound in terms of the way they were processed. So what is this specific piano trick? What does it sound like? What does analog sound like? How do the plugins compare? Does it make the piano sound better? Does it sound better in the mix? Let's find out. Right, okay, so let's get stuck right into this trick. It's a very simple trick. It's essentially a pultec in an la2a. La2a doing about 10 dB gain reduction, 100 Hz boost, like maybe around 5 dB, and like cranking like 16K or 12K in the pultec. It's simple as that, okay? So we've got the analog from Mix Analog. Mix Analog do their own version of a pultec. It's still hardware, but it's like they've got the parts and like done a hot rod version of it or whatever it is. But they do have a genuine Teletronix LA2 and it's stereo as well, which is even better. Now the two of them come together in a bundle. You can get the LA2 on its own, but the great thing about this bundle is it's generally as simple as you import your file, you process the tracks, you bounce it, you've got like 15 minutes, 30 minutes, 45-minute sessions. And in terms of the plugins, I've just went, no, what, fuck it, right? let's just go free, right? You all love free, I've noticed, right? I've done all the plugin and hardware shootouts. I know what I prefer, but let's just do free, right? It's fun, free's fun, right? So we're going to do the Analog Obsession again, the LA2, because I did that in the last shootout. But I've never tried out the Analog Obsession Rare, which is his pultec. I think it's possibly an EQP1A, I think. And then we've got, I don't know how to say it, I'm just going to say it now. Is it Kiive or Kiive or whatever it is? It's Kiive, right? But they do a free pultec, and I don't know why, but it's emulating a warm audio pultec. I don't know why, but whatever, right? Doesn't matter, right? It's free. It's free. Okay, so let's get straight into it, right? I've told you the way it's set up, really simple. Pultec going into LA2A, right? 10 dB gain reduction. I've got the gain kind of maybe around 30, just above 30, because I don't want to hit the gain too hard in the LA2, because I don't really want to add too much distortion and saturation. I still want to keep the piano quite clean. Now, you would think it would just be as simple as just simply going, right, there's my piano, Pultec LA2, job's a good one. Unfortunately, no, as there is something that this book doesn't tell you. From a very good source, I have been told that the key to the Elton John piano sound was a dead piano sound. And what I mean by dead is by trying to take away all the reverberance of the piano sound. But it makes sense to me because of the gain reduction that we're doing in the LA2. Think about it, right? What a compressor does. The compressor attenuates your loudest parts and brings up your quietest parts. So see all that reverberance that you don't really hear now? When you hit it at 10 dB gain reduction, all of that room reverberance, the room sound, the ambience is going to come up and it's going to be a lot louder. And the more I thought about it, I thought that makes absolute sense because you have more control over your ambience and your room sound. And what it does, it allows the kind of like transients in the body and the detail of the piano to be there and not get washed out by the room. And if you want to add in reverberance or ambience, then again you could do that as a send or whatever, like an insert with like a low mix amount, you know what I mean? So there's ways you can do it and it made sense to me. However, this kind of gave me a problem, as the piano that I've got in this session, I can tell it's not like a real piano, it's like a VST, which means that it's got like a synthetic kind of room reverb to it. So from there I was like, right, how do you get reverberance out of a source? Now, I've already made a video talking all about my kind of like top 10 Plugin Alliance plugins that I use in every mix, and SBL de-verb was one of them. Now, the great thing with the SBL de-verb is that you've got almost like kind of an amount section, so you can kind of tailor how much of the reverb you take out the source. If you hit it too hard, it can sound a little bit too much and a little bit synthetic. So I tried to set it in a way where it was as natural as possible, but I still kind of had the clarity from the pianos. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you a very quick clip of the SBL de-verb in action, just so you know how you could do it yourself, okay? This will work with like any de-verb plugin, all right? So let's do that very quickly. So as you can hear, I've got the reverb out. Now, a lot of people will be listening to this going, that's just, Paul, you've just taken like the life out of it. Like, it just sounds dull now. Like, Paul, it doesn't sound right. Like, I prefer it with the reverb. Now, you're obviously going to think that, right? But for this trick, it's not going to work, okay? And I'm going to show you why I did the deverb, okay? So I've printed 2 bounces, right? I've got 1 bounce without any deverb and a bounce with the deverb, right? Now, what I want you to do is just listen to like the clarity of the piano and listen to the washiness that room ambience is now kind of bringing up. It's quite interesting to me because without it being compressed, you don't really hear it as much, but just listen to the difference in kind of clarity and detail. Compressing as much as 10 dB, compression with the pultec as well. Just listen to the 2 differences. So as you can hear, the original piano sounds quite washy in my opinion, and it's just the reverb's too much and it's uncontrollable, where in the instance where it's got deverb on it, you're still getting a little bit of the ambience coming in, but just enough. It's still dead and it actually suits the amount of compression that's on there. And in a mix, the piano is going to be more identifiable and it's not getting washed out with all this reverb, which means if you want to add in like room reverberance, then you can add that in. So that's that. I just thought I would kind of show you very quickly how I've got this set up, just so if you want to do this kind of properly, there is ways that you can do it. Okay, so we've got that set up. So let's compare the hardware to the plugins, okay? Plugins set the exact same way. Level matched to integral LUFS. Right, so what I'm going to do is I'm just going to play them all side by side. So we've got the dry versus the hardware versus the plugin, dry, hardware, plugin, and then dry and 2 plugins. Let's do it. Now that was really, really interesting to me, because this is one of the first times that I've listened back to like plugins versus hardware, and really sat back and went, wow, that analog is doing something really special. It's really quite odd, right? What I find in the Kiive or Kiive, I can't say it, right? The other one, right, the other pultec, the warmy pultec, well, that's what it's called, the warmy pultec, is that it's got more harmonics than the analog obsession. You can add more harmonics in the analog obsession. There's like a pre-gain stage switch you can use, but either way, with it like the pre-gain stage on, I do find the analog obsession pultec to be too clean for me. It lacks width, and I don't know, it still sounds digital to me. I listen to it and go, I've not got the width, it's a little bit too clean, and it sounds like a VST piano to me. I can tell it's not a real piano. Where in the analog, it just, to me, it sounds like more like a real piano. It might just be me. See, what I love about the la2a and that pultec together is the harmonics and the transients. It's hard to explain, but it's just a really nice kind of blooming effect to the harmonics. It doesn't really distort. It just sounds really nice and round and kind of warm, and gives the piano a little bit like a little bit of a hug. Where the Kiive, the warmy one, I need to call it the warmy pultec, sounds closer than the analog obsession pultec. The harmonics are a little bit better. I've got time 16 oversampling on the warmy, and I don't know, I just kind of feel like, see the saturation and the harmonics that come through and the transients of the piano, it sounds distorted. It doesn't really work well with that LA2, in my opinion. It's not softening the transients, it's almost like it's kind of clipping them a little bit, and it's kind of sounding a little bit distorted and not as nice. To me, it's like it's in the middle between the analog obsession and the hardware, but to me, the hardware wins out. It kind of adds a little bit of a vintage warmth to me, and everything's rounded off a little bit, but you've still got a nice bit of high-end plinky-plonky sound in the piano, and I just think it sounds awesome, and I really, really don't think that the plugins come even close to the quality that it adds, especially the width. There's a way, way more width in the hardware. Now, I could have left it at that, but what I did was I wasn't entirely happy with the overall piano sound. I was sitting back going, right, if they recorded this onto like a console, then you're going to kind of get that, especially if it's a Trident, you're going to kind of get some coloration or some warmth from the pre's. I don't know if it's Neve pre's that they use, but there'll be some form of coloration. So I was like, I kind of feel like it needs a little bit more smoothing out. I think a console would do that. So I added a little bit more coloration using the neold Big Al, which is one of my most favourite saturation plugins of all time. That and the HG2 Black Box. I normally use HG2 Black Box for transients, but for anything else, just like a warmth and still kind of give you a little bit of a like 3D character, I feel that the neold Big Al just does it perfectly. And I really, really, really love what it done to the pianos. I just kind of feel like it gave me that kind of smooth colour, took kind of a little bit of the harshness out of the pianos. It makes it sound a little bit more like a record and just a little bit smoother, which is kind of what I hear on the records a little bit. And then I've added a little bit of reverb using the Abbey Road chambers as well, just a very 25% in the mix, just to kind of make it a little bit more lifelike. I want it to sound more like a real piano, okay, because again, I can tell it's VST pianos. So this is what I've done with the nailed Big Al saturation and also in the Abbey Road chambers as well. So that is how I've got the piano set up in the actual mix that I'm doing so far. So what I've done was I added the saturation and the reverb onto the plugins as well. So what we'll do is we'll just do a quick side by side, just so you can hear if, again, does the saturation and the reverb, does it make the differences any closer, or again, is it completely far apart? Again, really far apart from me. What I find really, really interesting, you don't get as much of the room sound in the analog obsession as you do in the analog and the warmy pultec and LA2 combination. It's quite interesting. I'm just going to say, for this specific instance, it's too clean. The analog obsession doesn't do like what I get like from the Realtek and stuff like that, like the Noise Ash Realtek and other Pultecs, that kind of really rich harmonic smeary effect. It just adds a lot of nice harmonics and smooths kind of everything out. I don't get that. It's a little bit too clean for me. Again, it's that width that the hardware does. The plugins just can't do what the analog does. I just think it's got a character of its own. But however, is what we heard in solo going to manifest itself in the mix? Are the differences between the warmy plugin LE2 versus the hardware, are those differences going to get lost in the mix? Let's find out, and that's how I'm going to end the video. So hopefully you've enjoyed this video, right? Try it out for yourself, have fun, honestly. Mixing Engineer, it's upside down. Mixing Engineer's Handbook, I genuinely suggest you give it a whirl. There's loads and loads of great stuff and loads of great tips in here, okay? I've really enjoyed doing this. It's been a great bit of fun, and genuinely I think in the mix, hopefully as you'll hear, I genuinely do think the analog and this technique in general works phenomenally well in this session and in this specific track. It might not always work, but I think it sounds awesome. And unfortunately this time around, I'm not going to say that the plugins sound really close, or I prefer the plugins. It is what it is. It's all subjective. You might prefer the plugins, and if you do, happy days. It's free. And if you are interested in trying out this analog combination, then I'll leave a link to Mix Analog's website down below. You can try it out for yourself, okay? You'll have to pay for it, right? I'm sorry. I don't have any discount codes or anything, but if you want to try this out for yourself, then you can try it out for yourself. So my name is Paul Third. This is my attempt at trying to get in like an Elton John kind of style piano sound. Let me know in the comments down below what you think, if it sounds great, if this technique sounds like any other piano styles or any other artists that this reminds you of, if you've used a technique similar to this, what you use for mixing pianos and all great stuff like that. Alright, my name's Paul Third. This is Mixing Wednesdays. Like, subscribe, and I'll see you again next week.